A Florida sheriff recently announced that it's a new day for the children of Florida because they're bringing back the beatings.
They know nothing's going to happen to them. They know they're not going to be given after-school detention. They're not going to be suspended. They're not going to be expelled. Or like in the old day, they're not going to have the cheeks of their ass torn off for not doing right in class. So starting right now, it's a brand new day, folks. It is a brand new day where school discipline is going to be put back in place in Brevard Public Schools. We have a school board that stands behind this. We have our teachers union that stands behind it. I can tell you that our team, all the way from the state attorney, from school district security, to the principals, to the teachers, we're all tired of this disruptive behavior by just...
All right, so that was Sheriff Wayne Ivey announcing the school is trying to institute a new draconian discipline crackdown. Now, this comes after the highly controversial ousting of the popular school's superintendent by far-right members of the Brevard County School Board. Sheriff Ivey, you could see, was joined by Florida State Attorney Phil Archer and School Board Chairman Matt Sussin, who has ties to the far-right organization Moms for Liberty. So understand that this is kind of what happens when right-wingers take over the school board. They decide to bring back the beatings. Now, Florida has already allowed for corporal punishment to be administered, but only if the school board approves it. Florida law also states that corporal discipline may be considered excessive or abusive when it results in certain specific injuries, including significant bruises or welts, according to Florida statutes listed on the Florida Senate's official website. Ah, great. So now the press briefing that you saw there, and I've got another video that I'm going to show you later, but notably, they did not allow questions from reporters. Gee, I wonder why. Very curious. So now here's the thing. The board is claiming that they need to bring back corporal punishment to do the beatings because you have staff that are being harmed by students. Now, according to an article in Click Orlando, a representative from the Union for School Bus Drivers and other school employees said staff members were being hurt by students. The instructional assistants that are in the classrooms are choked, bitten, scratched. It's an everyday occurrence, said Dolores Varney with the IUPAD Local 1010. And they're so discouraged because nothing is ever done with the students, or at least it appears there's nothing being done. If it is, it's taking way too long to remove these bad students from the classroom. So note the framing here. It's the students that are bad. Okay, here's the thing. As a neurodivergent person with ADHD, I was considered a bad student. Why is that? Well, I'd get bored in class, my mind would wander, I couldn't pay attention, and sometimes I'd act out. Certainly not in the more extreme sense that's happening to some of these parapros. But there was, of course, emotional dysregulation, executive dysfunction. Understand that neurodivergent people can't help that. That's not a behavior switch that you can turn off. They don't understand that. So I'm looking at this situation and I'm horrified for the students. Beatings are not going to solve the issue. And by the way, nobody wants the staff to be harmed either. Of course I care about their safety, the parapro safety, the teacher's safety, but also the student's safety. I don't want anybody to suffer. And by the way, not only that, but you also have, the other kids that are in the class, that their education is being disrupted because of that. And so it's a situation that's not fair to anyone that's involved. But how does bringing the beatings into the classroom going to solve this? How is bringing cops into the classroom and arresting people? How's that going to solve anything? No, that's going to make the situation worse. Worse. So there's a lot of issues here, and none of them are solved by what they're doing in Florida. To actually solve the problem, you would need specialized staff, specialized learning, an actual plan to deal with students with neurodivergence in a positive way for all involved that allows everyone to get a quality education and to do so safely. You also might want to, have healthcare, mental health care available to students, to everyone, Medicare for all. But unfortunately, as I said before, Florida's decided to do this in the worst way possible. You bring in the cops, you bring in the beatings. Apparently, the beatings will continue until morale improves or until grades improve. Now, Ivey continued to say this. This is total sheriff behavior. This is their perspective. If you're a little snot that's coming to our classes to be disruptive, you might want to find someplace else to go to school, because we're going to be your worst nightmare starting about now. Ivey also said, according to Florida Today. Okay, but maybe, you might want to find out why they're being disruptive. Maybe they have a sensory issue. Maybe they have emotional dysregulation. Maybe there's some issues going on at home, like, I don't know, abuse, neglect, what have you. Maybe find those issues. Or allow people to have the resources to find those issues on their own. But instead, no. The framing is the kids are just bad. Bad, throw them away. That is such a deeply lazy and disgusting way to think about this issue. It's so easy for them to just throw the children away, who again are most likely neurodiverse. And by the way, it happens more often to Black and brown students. They're targeted more often because of being Black and brown, which is why, by the way, we should, maybe learn about critical race theory, which talks about these issues. They don't get the help that they need when they suffer from things like autism, ADHD, and other learning and behavioral issues. And I'll give you some examples of how these kinds of policies that Mr. Ivey and the right-wing school board in Brevard County are pushing for, how that affects neurodiverse kids. Back in 2017, John Haygood, a 10-year-old boy with autism, happens to be a white boy, was arrested in Florida. When he was arrested for, having a meltdown, he said, "I don't know what's going on. I don't understand," at the officers who were escorting him to the backseat of the police car for felony battery against a parapro. This was an October 2017 incident where he allegedly punched and kicked his parapro, which left scratches and marks. The incident occurred after John had been disruptive in class, throwing paper balls around the classroom and hitting other students. Again, not fair to the parapro, not fair to the students, but at the same time, you're going to arrest him? You're going to throw him in a cop car? Is that the right way to deal with this? He's got autism, and sometimes, again, people that have that condition require specialized educations and environments, time to cool off even from having an episode. But what happens, instead of helping kids with special needs, they get criminalized and told that they're bad. You're just bad. No, they're not bad. They have behaviors and they need specialized help. They don't want to be this way. Another example, an 8-year-old Black girl at Lovejoy Elementary in Alton, Illinois, was jailed for over 2 hours by Alton police because of a tantrum. The youngster, who suffers from autism, anxiety disorder, and depression, ended up throwing a fit at school, was screaming and kicking, and of course was arrested as a result. She was handcuffed and shackled at the waist and feet, which again has to be just horrifying from her perspective. Her uncle maintained that she had asked to use the bathroom at the police station, but her requests were ignored. They gave her nothing to eat and drink as she was in custody for 2 hours. When she finally came home, her eyes were swollen from crying, and there were welts from her wrists, around her wrists, from the handcuffs. Look, according to a study called Neurodiversity in Education, students with autism spectrum disorder are more likely to be suspended from school than their peers, according to a 2015 paper. ADHD students are also at greater risk of dropout and expulsion than their peers. In addition, neurodiverse students are more likely to either find themselves the victim of bullying or they themselves bully other students. arresting them is not going to help those kids. It's not going to help them grow up to be stable adults. They're going to end up being in and out of the carceral system, which only reinforces the idea that they are bad, that they are broken, instead of actually dealing with these issues in a positive way that helps their development. You need to have, them be able to work with people in a safe environment that allows them to both learn and thrive. They all have potential. They just got to have the right environment. And that right environment does not involve officers like Sheriff Ivey, who is a complete and utter monster. In fact, he went on this next video to suggest that the mass shooting in Parkland at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, which left 17 people dead, was a result of not beating children enough.
As we look at school discipline, there's two avenues that somebody that's being disruptive in class goes. One is handled administratively inside the school district. That's someone that's being disruptive in class, not following the policies and the procedures that's set forth by the schools. The other is criminal activity. If you want to see the distinction between how those two should be handled, you only need to look as far south as Parkland, because what they did down there was stop handling things on the criminal side and tried to keep everything on the admin side. There are criminal acts that take place. That's what we're going to be involved in. We are going to deal with those.
Gee, if only we'd have beaten the children more, then one of them wouldn't have had to grab a gun. Wait a minute. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Wouldn't beating someone make someone more likely who is troubled to go and grab a gun? It's a complete opposite of logic. And by the way, he said nothing about the easy access to guns as well. Just blame it on, not being able to beat the shit out of what's likely going to be, more often than not, black and brown students or people with disabilities. That's their plan. That's what's going on in Florida right now. That's their plan for education. That's their plan for discipline. No nuance, just more beatings. We'll beat the bad out of those kids. That's what we're going to do. Way to go, Florida. This was, by the way, endorsed. A lot of the people that are on the school board endorsed by Governor Ron DeSantis. That's who these people are. And that's why, at this moment, Florida continues to prove itself to be the dick of the United States. The biggest dick of all.